I am Alan Lepofsky. I am from Constellation Research, and I am here to talk to you guys and get you inspired and excited, hopefully, about the future of work. That's the term we used to use. I'm focusing now on this term employee experience, and you're going to kind of see why and what I mean by that. But essentially what I want to talk about are the following things today. The first thing we're going to talk about is a lot of what you've been hearing in the keynotes the last few days, and it's the idea that work is changing. The culture of work is changing, and the styles of work are changing. And I'm going to sort of talk about that in three major areas. There's three things that I want to cover that you walk away from today. The first is this era of artificial intelligence. There we go, 30 seconds, first buzzword in. So I don't know who's tweeting the buzzwords or if there's a bingo card. Are they drink? Yeah, you got to drink every time we say it. But I want to talk about artificial intelligence and more tangibly what it really means to your day-to-day jobs. How is it going to actually change things? Not, hey, great, there's all these robots in the cloud that are doing things. It's like, what is it going to mean to you? What does it mean to you already today? You may be surprised how much it means to you today. The second area I'm going to talk about is this idea of the quantified employee. So how we use data and analytics to actually make our day better. And I'm not talking about becoming a data scientist and looking at charts and trends and things. I'm talking about just regular knowledge workers, what it means. So we'll look at that. And then the third, perhaps the area that I am by far the most passionate about, is what is the role of creativity in the future? As we get freed up from the mundane and the boring stuff, how do we start to create much cooler, much more interesting, much more engaging things? How do we express ourselves better and become storytellers? So those are the things we're going to look at for about 20 minutes. Then I'm going to bring up my friend Tadashi, and we're going to sit up here and we're going to discuss what they're doing with the Google product of families at Nurses Next Door. So stay tuned for that. That way you don't have to listen to me talk for the entire 45 minutes. We get to have somebody else up here, which is wonderful. All right, so let's begin. Why is work so much work? Why is work so hard? Anybody here love going to work and getting their job done? You know, you like the job part? Do you like the tools that you're using? Yeah, and that's why they have more hands go down. We have all these problems with the tools, and the main issue is a lot of what we're using, a lot of what goes through our day, are things that were designed for a bygone era. They were designed for tools that aren't the tools that we still use. They were schemorphically designed, if you're those UI designers, to sort of emulate real-world situations that we don't need anymore. We don't need things on screen to be an 8.5 by 11 or an A4 piece of paper anymore. We don't need Rolodexes that we can scan through. We need cards that automatically pop up in context. You know, we need our tools to be designed for a more modern era. And that's something, it's a theme you've been hearing from Google, which is one of the things I like about working with Google is, you know, they do talk about born in the cloud, designed for the cloud, et cetera. So there are some things here that they do really, really well. So essentially, when Constellation Research, when we look through our customers and we deal with vendors and we deal with end-user clients, there's a few things that have popped up as the recurring themes that are the problem. And what those all lead their way to, I'm going to get to the four of them in a minute, is the fact that the way we work is currently broken. So whose day resembles something like this? You spend some time in email, you spend some time in your calendar, you spend some time in tasks, and in files, and in web conferencing, and in enterprise social networking, and on and on and on. You use all these different applications. And these applications don't talk to each other as much as you want them to. They don't have the context of each other. They don't communicate back and forth, and they don't pivot to the moment of what you need. Imagine if you could have tools that actually contextually knew what you wanted them to show you at the right time. So having those tools be broken are in four main categories, or those tools are broken in four main categories. And these are the things we want to solve, and this is where it gets exciting about where the future of work comes. The first is this problem of too much information. Now notice I avoid the cliche of email overload, because email overload is irrelevant. Email overload, select all, delete. Email overload is gone. You know, it's the easiest problem to get rid of. That's not the, my boss does it 3 or 4 times a day. From Alan, hit delete. Okay, so that's why I never get responses. But we get too much information. It's not just quantity, folks. In some ways we can deal with quantity. It's the quality of the information. We don't know which information is right, which information is current, which information is accurate, which information is blessed by your company, which is the official. So we have too much information, and we have information that we don't know that we should be looking at. So that's the first problem that we have. And I think we probably all would raise our hands that we're suffering from that. Now, it's not just that there's too much of it, it's that it's coming from too many places. Used to be really easy. Look in your inbox, you could see all this, but now we look at our text messages and our calendar and 4 or 5 different social networks and 3 or 4 different web conferencing tools and a project management tool, all those things I showed you. There's too many places, and that becomes a huge problem. Now, I've been in the software industry since 1993, helping build all this stuff, and I think we have failed as an industry. If you as users and consumers of these tools, if the first thought that goes through your mental flowchart of how to collaborate is where, then we've kind of failed. That shouldn't be the problem. You shouldn't have to choose which tool am I using, which conversation, where was that file? Oh my gosh, I had the greatest response, but I can't remember where it is. So too many channels for all this information. Now, the irony of collaboration is that we're working with too many people. Sounds strange, right? That's the whole idea. Openness, transparency, everyone inside your organization, everyone outside your organization, your competitors, your partners, public people you've never met. Well, while that is wonderful, and it leads to incredible serendipitous discoveries of information and access to things, it's also a major psychological stress on people at work. You don't have that relationship with all of these people. We can get into the science of it, things like Dunbar's number, where you can mentally handle 150 relationships before you start to not understand people and things like that. But essentially, the short version is, you can't map people's names to some of the things they do. What's this Twitter ID? Here's Alan Lepofsky. Which person is he? Canadian rock star 1, who is that person? We can't find this information. And if you can't build deep, trusting relationships with your colleagues and your customers, then it's very difficult to actually work together and get things done. So ironically, we've created a sort of problem in the collaboration space around too many people. And so we have too much information coming at us from too many places, from too many people, and the worst of all, they're asking us to do too many things. Raise your hand if you remember the date that you allowed your time to be assigned to other people. When did that switch happen? When did people start to get pinging you, asking you what to do, when to do it, interrupt you? And this is the style we work in. I had someone on the airplane on the way here actually, I missed communicating with them because they Twitter DM'd me, and I wasn't looking on Twitter to, connect with somebody as soon as I got off the plane. So we have all these problems. Now, the good news is there's ways we're going to solve them, and that's what I'm going to get into. But let me quickly step you through sort of the evolution of the way these tools have built. We'll just do it really quickly. How many out here remember the term Web 2.0? Excellent. I like this audience. So, we were going to move off of email onto communication tools. That was Web 2.0. And then all of a sudden, the evangelists and analysts and people like myself said, whoa, that just sounds too fluffy. This has to be about business. So we started calling it social business. Because all of a sudden, now it sounded like your company should spend a lot of money on it. Because now it was about getting business done, not just about being 2.0-ish. Well, we evolved that to this concept of future of work. And while myself included, I've been a proponent of this idea of future of work, and I do still look 1, 3, 5 years out. Can't really look past 5 years out. Can't look 5 years out sometimes. But the problem with future of work is I want this to be more tangible for you today. I want you to walk out and have things that can change in the way you work. So we started using this term employee experience. And I think that's what it's all about. I think it's all about changing the way people get their jobs done. And I'm excited to help you through that. So let's take a look at those 3 areas that I discussed. There's not a test afterwards, but the first was artificial intelligence, or AI, and the role that it plays. Now, everywhere we go, every news, every webcast, everything we look at is talking about AI, but the reality is it's actually much more part of your life than a lot of people realize. We're a technical audience. You guys may look at this slide and go, check, 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 I got it, but a lot of people I speak to don't. And you have to realize, has anybody here talked to their phone today? Pretty much every hand goes up. You remember 3 years ago when you used to open up your phone and scroll through, figure out which page, which icon, and then check the weather and type in your zip code or your postal code. Now you go, hey, phone, tell me what the weather is like outside. You don't know how or where or why, which application that's using, but that's sort of changed the way that we work. And I'll talk more about natural language processing. How we decide what information we see, how we decide what we order, transportation that gets us back and forth. Anybody here have a self-driving car? It's amazing to trust this experience that these things are going to drive us to work. So AI is all around us. Now at work, AI is a little bit different. AI isn't artificial intelligence. It's actually augmented different types of your work. By augmented, I mean this is not going to replace what you do. It's going to enhance what you do. And the first augmented experience that you're going to have is augmented information. We're going to have information with extra layers of context provided to us. Instead of just the email message, you're going to have the email message and everything about the senders, and everything about the content, and the ability to quickly find out information about the tasks that you have to do. That information is going to allow you to interact better with the people you interact with. Imagine actually being prepared for a meeting. Crazy, isn't it? 2018. How many of you feel prepared when you look at your calendar entry and you've got 7 meetings in a row that day? You don't know who the people are. You don't know what the agendas are. You don't know what the tasks you have to do are. Imagine if you could actually be prepared for those interactions, especially with customers. What if you could have your software pull all the information you need about your customers for you? Once we have that information that allows us to interact better, all of a sudden we can start to derive better insights about what works and what doesn't work. Which types of phone calls led to closing deals? Which marketing campaigns allowed us to sell more? Which solutions allowed us to close problem tickets? All of a sudden, better interactions with people with better quantities of information are going to allow us to do things better. And that leads to greater impact for your company. Better bottom lines, better savings, better sales, better customer satisfaction. So the role of AI in the future of work isn't to replace you. I know the news likes to talk about sensational ideas of we're all going to be out of work. And yes, there are positions that are going to be replaced by automation. But if your job can be replaced by automation, you probably don't want to be continuing to do that job. You want to look at jobs that are going to fulfill you more and let you do more creative things. So these are the roles of AI. So let's look at some of them. I talked about things like natural language processing, the way you interact or talk to your phone. There's simple things that are out there today that I demo to people that blow their mind. Did you know that if you're in either Windows File Manager or Mac Finder, you no longer have to type anything. You can say, computer, show me all of the PowerPoint presentations or Google Slides that I've created in the last 3 weeks that deal with the term innovation. Your computer will return that to you today. I demo that to people, and they go, oh my God, I had no idea that I could do that. I don't know how to do star.ppt space created. I don't even know the format of the date. I ask my computer for files now, and it returns them to me. It's a massive game changer in the way that I work. Natural language processing is not just about you doing input. It's about the output. My phone right now is actually transcribing everything that I talk about. So I use 3 or 4 different applications that I'm constantly testing that actually take all of my web conference meetings or my live talks and transcribe word for word what I'm doing. Once you have transcription, you can go beyond that and look for things like highlights and keywords and customer names and follow-up items, and you can get that really interesting insight. So natural language processing is really changing the way each and every one of you works. Things like meeting scheduling. Who loves going back and forth trying to schedule a meeting? Let the computers do it. This is interesting because I actually didn't know the keynote information before I actually put this up here, but hopefully you've all seen Google announce some things in this space. When your software starts to suggest to you how to reply or the type of content to create, all of a sudden it's helping you along the way of doing things. Image recognition or tagging images. This is one of the biggest game changers in the world. How many of you, and I swear I'm not saying this because I'm at a Google event, I've done this at every event. How many of you use Google Photos? Everyone? Google people? There's a lot of hands up there. Google Photos has changed the way that I do photography. I no longer tag things. I no longer file name things. I no longer put things in folders. I put all my work content up into Google Photos, and I say, show me a picture when I was in San Francisco and I was standing in front of the Moscone Center. And up come the answers. It's amazing how these things change things. So image recognition. Now imagine building product catalogs at work. Or imagine your customer support people uploading an image and not having to figure out which part was broken, but having the computer tell them and suggest which parts to fix that part with. So image recognition at work, massive game changer. I just talked about audio and video transcribing. I talked about audio. I didn't talk about video. Imagine inside your video conferences having all the faces recognized, the people you work with the most often, the people that you interact with, things like that. Now, of course, there's security implications of that. Don't have time to talk about those today. Task prioritization. How many of you went to sleep with a task list? Everyone, come on, you had something you had to do today, right? Go to Keynote. You had at least one thing. How many of your task lists changed while you were sleeping? 0. Shouldn't they? Things happen. Your competitors do things, your companies do things, your family asks you things, your coworkers ask you things. I want my computer to actually work on my task management. And maybe I think I had to wake up at 8 and do something, but maybe something more urgent happened. I would like my computer to reprioritize my day for me. So AI is going to change that. And then contextual filtering of information. I've kind of hinted at this all along. Those 4 problems we have, too much info, too many people, too many tasks, too many channels, what if that all went away? What if I could have 100 million emails, but when I selected a calendar entry, it only showed me the 3 that were relevant? Or what if I selected a file and it instantly told me the 5 people that were relevant to that file? The amount of information we have becomes irrelevant if we can solve for context. If any of you follow me on Twitter, you'll know like my major pet peeve, the major thing I talk about is solving for context. And that's one of the things that AI is going to do. And finally, where we're going to reach the stage where not only does it help us, but it starts to automate things for us and take next best actions for us. So one day we'll have not just automated suggested replies, but automated replies. If someone asks me for things like, what's the conference call number? How many times a day do you want to answer that? Wouldn't it be nice if your email did that for you? So we're going to look at all sorts of interesting things there. Now, what happens when we move beyond the realm of just software doing AI? What happens when we start to add hardware and IoT to the mix? Imagine if your biological functions could actually be things that sort and filter the content you have. Imagine if your heart rate was so high that your inbox said, you know what, I don't want to show you any more email right now. Alan's a little stressed, okay? My calendar has a 10 a.m. meeting. My task management tool shows that I haven't checked in my presentation yet. My heart rate's at 120. The last thing I need is more email right now. Well, that's not fictional. You know, these things are going to actually happen. University labs, software vendors, research labs are building all of these things that are going to help you. So, and your watches are monitoring this. Your shoes are monitoring this. There's all sorts of the cameras in your laptops are monitoring things like this. So there's all sorts of ways to get this information back. Imagine if the days of date, time, sender, subject, size, those stopped becoming the facets that we searched on. And all of a sudden we started searching on facets like pulse and mood and things like that. It's going to be game-changing to the way we actually do our jobs. Now, not just physical traits, but what about emotional traits? What about if it could react to the way of emails that I like for people, meetings that I enjoy going to, conferences that I want to attend, or vice versa, the things that I don't want to look at? Your real-life colleagues and friends and family and assistants, if you have them, understand this about you. They know what to show you and what to shelter from you, when to show you things that may set you off, or when to tell you happy things in the morning. Why shouldn't your software be able to do it as well? So things like facial recognition. Imagine if your tools learned which things made you happy. You opened up an email, you smiled. You went to a meeting and you were stressed or rolling your eyes. Even though you weren't on the web conference so they couldn't see you rolling your eyes, you're rolling your eyes. Believe me, I know you're rolling your eyes during meetings. So what if your software could actually fix things like that? So lots of changes in AI. Topic number 2, the role of analytics at work. Let's talk about your personal life for a minute. How many steps are you supposed to take a day? Everybody knows 10,000 steps. How did that happen to us as humans? 5 years ago, I had no idea. I don't know, I have little feet. 12 million steps a day? I don't know. Like, what was I supposed to take? I don't know. Now we all know we're supposed to take 10,000 steps a day. How many meetings a day should we go to? Okay, that's the one stat we know. How many emails? How many colleagues should we work with? What's the right number of people on a project? How many customers can one sales rep deal with? How many products can a product manager handle? What if we had statistics about the way we did our jobs? What if we were able to actually take some of those analytics? So think about in our personal lives, the things that motivate us. Our health tracking tools. We have hotels and airlines that track all these statistics about us. Our high scores in video games, which I haven't thrown up here, but how many YouTube views and things like that. So what if you had statistics like this about the work that you did? Wouldn't it be awesome to know what you created had an impact on your company? And which things you did actually were a waste of time? As a research analyst, I write papers. I would love to know hours spent to create something versus return it got back. As opposed, maybe I spent 6 months writing something that nobody cared about, and maybe I quickly shot a blog post standing out on the corner of my street that got 1 million views. I want to know that. I want my software in 2019, 2020, 2025, whatever it happens to be, to guide me and tell me what I'm going to do. If I can be told by a watch on my wrist that after dinner I need to go do 500 more steps, I damn well should have my software at work helping guide me to do a better job. So I'm really interested in seeing where we go with this, how we can have insights driving us to get our jobs done better. So that's the second one. Third, I told you I'm passionate about this one, so I'm going to try to be calm on this one, is creativity. I was inspired at a conference by Adobe a couple years ago. Most of you are, I assume, on the IT side of things. I go to IT conferences all over the world. We're stressed about migrations. We're stressed about compliance. We're stressed about governance. You go to an Adobe conference, and it's 10,000 people talking about photography and video and film, and oh my God, they're so happy. Like, the biggest word of the conference is color. I was like, oh my God, I've never discussed color before and the impact of color. And I started thinking with the Adobe executives, what does that mean for work? Has anyone ever opened a calendar entry and said, gosh, that's beautiful? Why not? Like, why shouldn't our work software have these beautiful visual impacts and guide us to what we're doing? So our personal lives and our consumer lives are changing. These tools are making it easier than ever before to be creative. There's tools that let us create banner ads to post things on Facebook and Twitter, or memes. You know, what do you look at when your stream goes by? You look at things that have a photo. You look at things that have videos in them. You look at big words that say, you know, something happy about your cat as it goes by in the stream. So none of us have to be Photoshop experts to do that now. There's tools that allow us to do it. There's tools that allow us to do it for video. You can create videos even if you're not a videographer, even if you didn't go to film school. You can create 360-degree photos. Many of you saw me walking around the showcase floor with this weird little 360-degree device, or during yesterday's keynote. I didn't go to film school. For $200, I take 360-degree videos of everything I go to. Go look at one of my tweets from this morning's keynote, and I can see the entire conference floor. I should probably take a picture of you all night now, but I didn't get signed off to do that, so I won't. But you know, we can do 360-degree photos. It has changed the way that I interact with people on my Facebook stream. When I go to vacations and things, I take 360-degree pictures, and I look around. It's awesome. Or we just do simple things like use filters and change the way we look. My 3-year-old has no idea that she doesn't actually have ears. This doesn't freak her out. She sees this, and she thinks they're there. It doesn't freak her out at all. What if we could build content like this at work? Instead of sending an email message, what if we could actually craft a story that tells the story that we want to do? What if instead of creating another spreadsheet or another document, we could create a story that tells our boss or our customer what we want to do? Well, why not? The tools are available to do it. You remember a couple years ago when the coolest thing that could happen at IT is you got like a laptop refresh? And then, you know, any of your companies issue these automatically for people? Selfie sticks, 360-degree cameras, drones. I was walking around downstairs with a Steadicam. Actually, it was interesting. Security let me walk right through with the Steadicam, which I was a little surprised and a little happy about. But, you know, I'm a work-at-home employee. How many of you have been on that video conference where the camera is staring up at your colleague's nose and they've got a bookshelf filled of crap they don't read behind them and all that? Well, for $300, I bought a film backdrop set. I'm a work-at-home employee. I have lights and a backdrop now, and my video conferences look 1,000 times better. These should be standard parts of the employee tool set going forward. These are things that change the quality of the way we work, change and impress the way we tell our stories, and all sorts of things in that. And it's not just the content we create, it's also the applications we create. We've talked about citizen development for a long, long time, but we're actually getting to the point where we can actually do this. If you don't have to go to IT to make an application for you, if there's a little something you need that's better than a spreadsheet, that's better than sending an email, then you should be able to craft and easily build that. And those tools are becoming part of our everyday tool set, so that's really interesting as well. So I've talked about the way we create things. Let me spend just a few minutes on the way we consume things. Augmented reality, in my opinion, is like way, way, way more realistic than virtual reality at work. We can get into that over a beer at the bar. But I really believe we are starting to see enhancements to the way we view the world. This is a demo. Let's start with consumer stuff, the theme that I've been going consumer and then work. Let's look at, you know, imagine what you could do with Lego sets through augmented reality. Like, it's incredible to be able to look at these things and bring them to life. Has anyone walked into a Lego store in their local mall lately? Okay, so go into a Lego store in your mall, and you have 8-year-olds picking up a box off the shelf and walking over to, they have a camera on the wall, and you hold up the box, and on the camera, all of a sudden, the model that they're going to build comes to life. And all the little players come out of it, and they all walk around it, and they can see that Star Wars Lego or that, you know, Knights and Dragons Lego set that they're going to make. They can see what it's going to look like. That's magic. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't have anything like that when I was a kid. That's amazing. And they, 8-year-olds are standing up there going, cool, let me go, you know, let me walk around, let me do this. So it's incredible what it changes. In your personal lives, things like, has anyone used the IKEA catalog inside their house, or Sherwin-Williams to change the paint color on their walls? You can do all of these things by just looking through your phone or your iPad, or if you have a set of glasses that do this. It's changing the way we visualize information. I want to see those same changes start to happen at work. I want us to visualize documents or long-form documents in much easier ways. I want us to be able to look at presentations differently. I was using an augmented reality Twitter app for a while where, just like the science fiction movies you see, you have an unlimited canvas of information that you can look at, and you can move things off into the peripheral. You can move things out of your way. But you're still immersed in the real world. You're not lost in virtual reality. So these experiences are really starting to change the way that we can do things. The devices that we interact with these things are dramatically changing, everything from much smaller devices to much bigger devices. So it's no longer just your laptop screen or your tablet or your phone, but we're having wearables that show you just the right amount of information. Or we have larger screens are making a comeback. Both from Google and many of their competitors have these large screen devices that allow you. Flexible fabrics are going to dramatically change the way we interact with information at work. I want a laptop that's this big that folds up into my pocket. Or I want a phone that just rolls into a pen and I put it in my pocket and I pull it out when I do it. Well, Samsung and LG and all these people are making these flexible fabrics today. You think it's cool that we've all learned to do like pinch to make bigger and squeeze to make smaller? What about when we start stretching and twisting and moving things? We're all going to learn new ways to interact with work. So very interesting things that are changing, and I'm excited about it. All right, so hopefully this has given you some thoughts of, this isn't sci-fi, Alan's not talking about. These are realistic things that are going to change the way each and every one of you and all the people you support and all the people you work with are going to get their jobs done. And it's exciting. Like the last 10 years, folks, to be honest, cloud and social and mobile and all these things that we've done have changed the way we work, but they're not really evolving everything. We still work the same way we worked. Our files aren't stored on our hard drive. Great, they're secure in the cloud. Mobile, great, I can get access to my email anytime, anywhere. These things are going to change the way we work. AI is going to do some of your work for you. 25 years of software, I've never had my software do anything for me yet. It's responded back to me, but it's never done anything for me. I've never had data actually tell me what I do is right or wrong. And I've never crafted information and stories that actually compellingly tell my story the way that I want them to my team. So I think we are going to see some incredible improvements in the future. I am far, far more excited about the next 10 years than I am about the last 10 years. Now, 3 or 5 years from now, when I'm doing this speech again, you can remind me which of these things happened and which of these things didn't. And then we can dream about holograms and smell-o-vision and transporters. And there's no end of the things that are going to change the way we work. So my request to you, as I end this and before we start talking about a customer story, is wake up in the morning tomorrow and monitor your day till you go to sleep. And think about the processes that you're doing. You check your email in the morning, you go to work, you have a meeting. What's the transportation like? What was your drive to work like? How did you interact with your colleagues? Could you find the information you want? Think of your entire day, and then tweet to me which of those processes actually works the way you wish that it did. I did this for about a week. Nothing. Not 50-50, not 90-10. There wasn't a part of my day that I didn't think, wow, here's a way I could really improve that. And that gets me excited about the next 10 years. That's not a bad thing. That means we are at like 0.01% of collaboration. We are going to improve everything. And I'm really excited to be part of that. So hopefully that was interesting to you. Hopefully that set the stage. What we're going to do is I'm actually going to bring up Tadashi up here. We're going to talk about, is there steps on that side? Okay, I couldn't tell. I don't have much of an angle down to look at things. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to shift gears for a minute. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring things back to reality of a customer who's having to change the way that the people you support works. Do you want to?
Absolutely.
We were talking a few weeks ago, and it's interesting for me. We're both Canadian, so we made an agreement before. We actually are going to speak in American. We don't want to speak in Canadian and confuse everybody. So
we'll try.
We're going to spell our words properly today and things like that. So why don't we begin? Why don't you tell us a little about yourself and about Nurses Next Door?
Yeah, absolutely. Nurse Next Door is a disrupting senior home care organization. We truly believe on making our seniors happy. We believe in empowering our seniors and educating them that they actually have choices. And we do believe that seniors can stay at home. And I think it's really, how do we really create independence and interdependence with seniors? And through that journey is how do we empower our employees to take the steps and to feel empowered to make the right decisions, to make that that connection with the clients, the seniors that are in the homes, that are getting the care, and really living a fulfilling life.
Well, what I really liked when we first started chatting about this is, this vision I have of the way people are changing work, and that you're so focused on that. This isn't a cloud migration or we're moving from one product to another and we want new blue click buttons or something. You want to change the way your company is working, your industry is working. You want to disrupt the entire way that senior healthcare happens. And I got so excited hearing, you just mentioned we want data, we want things to tell us. You match so many of these qualities that I'm talking about. So what is a day in the life for one of your, you don't call them employees. What do you call all the people that work with you?
We call them caregivers.
Caregivers, okay. So a day in the life of a caregiver today. What are the challenges they have? I know we talked about binders of information and things like.
Yeah, absolutely. So the day of the caregivers, they're the caregivers that go into the clients' homes, the seniors' homes, and they're the ones that are providing the care. There's a physical binder in the homes that actually provides their care plans, the things that they need to do, the to-do list for today. And their care designers, who are the field managers, are the ones that have to go in every other week or every other day to kind of go in, take a look at the care binders and adjust. And one of the things when I think of this is when we're in the homes providing care, why do we have to wait before we actually make changes to the care binder? This physical documentation that's in the homes, right? It's just sounds so archaic, but from a documentation perspective, it's a mandated requirement. So how do we digitize this? This has been a big thought process, and what's next for us?
So enter Google. You've got these problems you want to solve. You want to get rid of the old, out-of-date binders and digitize things. What brought you to the Google Cloud platform, and what are you using it for today? And what kind of advice can you share with the audience?
Right. So, I really like what you had mentioned earlier. Nurse Next Door challenges the norm of healthcare industry. We believe that caregivers can be far more empowered, and one of the things I want to share here with caregivers is they're typically, casual workers, they're typically part-time staff, and they're the ones that are looking after our parents. And, I think it's our moral obligation to ensure that they have, a career destination, they're looked after, they feel empowered. And one of the things we looked at with Google is, obviously first there's the communication side of things, but caregivers are in the homes typically in a one-to-one interaction, right? They don't typically get to interact with other caregivers, nor get to share on a day-to-day basis with other caregivers their experiences, their knowledge, and well, what would collaboration look like, right? Then what would innovation look like through collaboration and community building? And that's how we looked at Google and how we brought Google into Nurse Next Door. Well,
I work with people in all sorts of industries, manufacturing, finance, sales. Healthcare is like one of those things we all want to succeed. It's like if these tools can help these nurses diagnose better, share knowledge better, make sure we're more accurate and up to date with what are happening with our parents. It's such a blessing of what you do. And so to bring technology to that, to enable these people to share that information is great. Security is a huge part of that, though, right? This is something that's I don't work in the industry. I excuse my naivety of the rules and regulations you do, but I know security, you said, is one of the big things that attracted you to the Google platform.
Absolutely. When I think about security, the first thought goes, do I want to hire 500 security staff to really look after my data, to look after the little bits and pieces of our data, to how people are connecting to our computers? I look at Google's security foundation, and how could we bring that into our organization and feel empowered through the Google security system, right? Google SSO, utilizing Drive, utilizing security, I would say G Suite as a whole, and how it's been built, and look at best in class as well. And when I look at that, I go, okay, I can bring this in without necessarily hiring 500 security staff members to really look after the day-to-day importance of data, the privacy of our clients' information.
Well, I see so many ways in which you're changing what your existing caregivers do to what they're going to do, matching it to what I was talking about, this use of analytics to drive what we're doing and data what we're doing. I feel so like small when I think I wish the tools would help me figure out which emails to do. For you, it's like this data and these analytics are going to help the caregivers figure out what the right treatments are and things like. That is so much more important than what my job is. Talk to us about, I know you were telling me earlier about once this is all digitized, it opens up an entire new world of data and analytics to you that you don't have access to today.
Absolutely. The last 2 years has been a journey for us and really looking at, well, we know augmented reality is real. We know that there are a lot of great tool sets. And what Nurse Next Door needed to do was grow up from a technology perspective. It was how does Nurse Next Door remain a people company, but embracing technology to make us remain a people organization. And the opportunity we see is if we can actually take all the information, the client's information, we have over 5,000 caregivers throughout North America. There are a lot of talents and skills that they provide day to day. What are we learning from them so that we can actually share back to our caregivers to replicate, excellence, customer excellence, where caregivers have gone the extra mile? How can we actually share those success stories, and how can we replicate that?
So that's like the perfect collaboration use case. Like, let's get these people working together, creating documentation, sharing best practices. So are you going to be using parts of G Suite, I guess, to sort of create communities for people? Or?
Absolutely. We've been piloting communities and G+ communities, let's say, and it's simple. I think when we look at our caregivers, there are caregivers that have been in the industry for a very long time, and they know how to, say, meal prep for diabetics, right? Well, when we have caregivers that are coming in, from fresh from school, how do we share this knowledge with them? How do we share, recipes for diabetics, right? What are some of the tips and tricks that some of our senior caregivers know about, say Alzheimer's and dementia, and how could we actually empower our, say caregivers that are coming into the industry, or even, experienced caregivers to share that knowledge as well.
Well, again, I want to relate back to this change of the way the tools we have and just how much more exciting and interactive and immersive work is becoming. And even for your caregivers who aren't techies, things like video and animations and pictures. We talked a little bit about like virtual doctors even becoming a possibility in this. Like, where do you see that much more immersive and visual part coming in?
Yeah, I think one of the opportunities, I talk about the virtual doctors, is we actually have clients that actually request care where we're going into the homes, picking up the client, taking them to the doctors, then actually getting the prescriptions, taking them to the pharmacy to get the prescriptions, and then driving them home. That whole experience could have been 3 hours. And we look at, well, how can we actually provide that service, from a digital perspective? Could we actually get prescriptions actually sent to the clients' homes? And so that we, the caregivers that are in the homes are actually looking at providing care beyond just driving them to the doctors, right? How can we actually provide services there? And, how can we get interactions through, I'll say one other concept here that we love to look at is telemonitoring type services, right? So, there's Alexa, there's Google, right? How can we actually quickly check in and say, hey, how are you doing today, right? And there's times when our clients or seniors don't need 24/7 care. They just need someone to check in with them, right? Sometimes it's actually just loneliness, right? So how can we actually just check in with them and say, hey, Bob, how are you doing today? Right, great. What's your plan for today? Well, I'm going to go for a walk. And, a 5-minute conversation can go a long way. So how do we look at bringing this type of connection? Could it be video, right? Could it be just audio? And we just really look at the various different ways of bringing that into the homes, but not alienating the actual seniors. I think that's a key point, is how do we embrace the technology where it seems fluid, it's not something that they fear having in the homes.
I love this. I deal with so many clients and customers that talk about things like digital transformation, and half the time it's fluffy, little like, oh, we moved something online or to the cloud. You're completely changing your business, the caregiver. What your caregivers are doing today, or yesterday, today, and then we'll get to the future in a bit, is so dramatically different. And KPIs for sales and marketing and finance are one thing, but KPIs for health and happiness, like, I can't even measure those. Like, that's a wonderful thing. So,
absolutely.
We have a couple minutes I'm going to leave for questions. I'm going to ask you one last one, and then anyone who would like to ask questions to either of us, there's a microphone in the back. But one of the things that happens when I'm around the floors at shows like this, or we're speaking to customers that are looking to migrate to tools, is my staff's not that technical, and we're status quo. We're used to doing things the way we do it. Moving is scary. Your entire employee base, your caregivers, not to generalize, but for the most part, aren't technical. And yet you're seeing huge success in this. Do you have any advice for companies that may be worried that they're moving too slow or haven't started yet? Give us some advice.
Right. The first thing is, I would say, it's the dream. I think that's the first step. You really need to take some time, out of your day-to-day and really dream of what you see as possibility, right? And what are the opportunities for your organization to actually leapfrog and exponentially grow, right? And it's how do you empower each individual in your organization? Then it's really around your change leadership type conversations, right? How are you having conversations on the why, right? It's not like how we're going to do this, right? What are we going to do? It's really about why are we doing this and what impact are we actually going to create, right? Are we going to fall behind our competitors, or are we going to be the disruptors and leaders of our industry?
Well, I really like that. Look, I want to personally thank you for what you guys do. My family's life's been impacted by your caregivers and things. So, thank you very much for this. Keep them going, and